Tonight I invite you to step beyond appearances. I invite you to close your eyes just for a moment and remember something powerful, something eternal. You are not trying to get to your dream life. You are already living in it. You see, the greatest secret is this. What you assume to be true of yourself becomes your reality. You don't wait for the world to give you permission to be fulfilled, abundant, loved, free. You assume the position. You rise in consciousness. You dwell in the end. I am not speaking to your outer self, to the shell that others see. I am speaking to the I am within you, the one who imagines, the one who chooses, the one who is. There is no power outside of your own consciousness. Everything you experience in the world is a mirror, reflecting back to you your most dominant assumptions. And so I say this to you now with boldness and absolute certainty. If you can assume it and live from it, the world must conform. I don't ask you to wish. I don't ask you to beg. I ask you to believe. Believe as though it were already so. Walk with the confidence of the one who has already received. Speak with the clarity of the one who has already arrived. Feel with the joy of the one who already possesses. I wake up each morning in my dream home, not because I bought it yesterday, but because I saw it within long before it appeared without. I pour my coffee and sit on the balcony of the life I imagined. I look out and smile, not in surprise but in gratitude, because this world has simply caught up to what I have long known within. When people ask me, how did you do it? I don't speak of struggle or luck or chances. I speak of alignment, of inward seeing, of living in the unseen until the unseen clothed itself in form. Because you must live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not talk about it as though it's far off. Not hope that one day it might come to pass. Live in it, rest in it, breathe from it. When I desired abundance, I stopped speaking lack. I stopped rehearsing poverty in my imagination. I no longer entertained the what-ifs of fear. Instead, I dined daily in the mansion of sufficiency. I let the atmosphere of abundance saturate my mind and heart. And the outer world, obedient as it always is, reshaped itself around me. When I desired love, I ceased longing. I no longer looked outside for validation. I became love. I felt love. I imagined conversations as if they were already happening. I walked with the posture of someone completely cherished, and the relationship I had dreamed of came swiftly, because I had already become the version of me who was ready for it. Listen to me now. You must claim it in consciousness. That is the only price. Not effort, not years of waiting, just the boldness to declare, I am, not I will be, not maybe someday, I am. The moment you say, I am successful, you have invoked a creative power that cannot be denied, unless you yourself deny it by doubting, by looking back, by returning to the old man. But I say to you, don't look back. Don't check the evidence. Be still and know. Know that what you assume to be true in your imagination will project itself into your world, just as surely as a movie plays from a reel. The outer is not your master, it is your servant. You are not waiting on the world is waiting on you. So act as if you are living in your dream life. Not because you're pretending, but because you know the truth that imagination and faith are the only substance. The rest is shadow. When you walk, walk like the one who is already blessed. When you speak, speak as the one who has already arrived. When you dream, dream as the one who knows dreams must come true, because they were planted by the Creator within you. I do not hope anymore. I do not wish. I assume. I feel. I know. And so my world now reflects the richness I have entertained in secret. I dwell in peace. I breathe in joy. I live in the fulfillment of what I once called a dream. But now I call it my life. You too can live this way. You only need to remember this one truth. To act as if is to claim what is already yours. And when you do, the world will bow, not to your effort, not to your status, but to your assumption. You are not becoming. You are. Live from that, and you will see wonders. I live in the end. Every moment of my day flows from the assumption that I have already become who I desire to be. I do not chase. I do not plead. I do not strive with desperation. I know, and because I know, I rest. Because I know, I walk differently. I do not wait for proof to convince me. I am already convinced within. The outer world is simply catching up to the truth I carry in my imagination. There was a time I lived by facts. I bowed to circumstances. I reacted to the visible, the tangible, the things that seemed to define me. But facts change. Circumstances shift. And when I awoke to the deeper truth that the only constant is the awareness I hold of myself, I stopped being a victim of conditions and became the cause of my reality. I no longer ask whether it's working. I no longer wonder if it's coming. I no longer search for signs. I am the sign. I am the evidence. My state of consciousness is the seed, and my world is the harvest. I live in the invisible. I dwell in the realm of unseen certainty, and because I persist there, the seen must conform. It has no choice. So when I speak of acting as if, I do not mean pretending. I do not mean putting on a mask or playing a role you don't believe in. I mean, you must embody the end result. You must feel it real. Let it fill your bones. Let it occupy your mind as if there were no other alternative. Your senses may scream otherwise. The world may present you with contradictions. But you have learned to ignore appearances, haven't you? You are not led by sight. You are not governed by what was. You are moved by what is. And what is what you accept as true in the quiet of your inner sanctuary. That inner speech, that secret self-talk, that persistent picture that is the creator of your world. Each morning when I rise, I do not start my day with doubts. I do not replay yesterday's limitations. I do not recite stories of failure or impossibility. I begin from the end. I walk through my morning as the one who already has. I put on my clothes in the consciousness of success. I pour my tea in the presence of fulfillment. I sit in the stillness and smile, not because something changed out there, but because something changed in here. You may ask, how long should I persist? I say until you feel it so naturally that you forget you ever lacked it. Until the idea no longer feels foreign but familiar, like an old friend, like something you've always known. You persist not to force it into being, but to fuse with it so completely that it becomes you. And once it is you, the world must reflect it. It cannot help itself. The outer is a mirror. It has no life of its own. It only gives back the image you hold of yourself. When I wanted wealth, I first changed my thoughts about money. I stopped resenting those who had it. I stopped calling it hard to get. I stopped speaking of struggle. Instead, I started feeling what it was like to have more than enough. I listened to the silence and heard the sound of ease. I tasted the sweetness of provision, and I walked around my home as though it had already expanded. I bought small things with the consciousness of great riches, and money came not because I ran faster or worked harder, but because I assumed wealth as natural. When I desired healing, I stopped rehearsing the illness. I stopped owning it in my words. I let go of the diagnosis in my mind. I began to feel what it would be like to be whole, strong, vibrant. I moved with that strength in my inner world, and the outer responded. Cells aligned. Energy flowed, life surged back into places that had once felt weak. Why? Because I had accepted the end, and that end called the body to order. This is not magic, it is law. As within, so without. There is no exception, there is no waiting line. The only delay is your own unwillingness to believe that you are already what you seek. I remember the moment I stopped wanting and started being. The shift was subtle but powerful. Wanting says, it's not here yet. Being says, I am. And the world listens to being, not to begging. Even now, as I speak, I do not reach for better words. I let the truth flow, because I know who I am. I know what I carry. I know what I've become. I do not second guess my voice. I do not shrink from boldness. I speak from the end, and the words organize themselves. You see, the moment you act as if, you signal to the universe that you are ready, and readiness is everything. The door opens when you align with the identity that belongs on the other side of it. You do not receive what you wish for. You receive what you are in consciousness. So if you long for love, stop imagining loneliness. Stop waiting for a call, a text, a message of hope. Become love itself. Sit in the silence and feel adored. Let your heartbeat echo the rhythm of connection. Smile because someone is loving you right now, even if the name has not yet arrived in your world. Their presence already exists in your assumption. If you crave a new chapter in your career, don't rehearse rejection or repeat old disappointments. Envision the office. Hear the congratulations. Smell the scent of opportunity. Walk into the room in your imagination and shake the hands of success. Take that version of yourself, the confident, clear, worthy you, and bring them into this moment. Breathe them in until they are the only version that feels real. When I changed my inner speech, my world changed its tone. When I changed my self-concept, the roles others played in my life shifted. Some left, some arrived, all according to the new story I told myself. Because others only reflect your own inner conversation. You train them how to treat you by how you treat yourself in thought. I used to think effort was the way. I worked, I pushed, I tried to manipulate outcomes. But now I imagine, I assume, I live in the satisfaction of completion. And somehow, without strain or striving, all things move to meet me. I am not special. I am simply awake. Awake to the truth that you don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are willing to believe you already are. So take a deep breath and check your state. What are you being right now? Are you being the version of yourself who lacks, or the version who leads? Are you being the one who waits, or the one who has? Because the shift is instant. It's not about years of work. It's a single bold assumption away. I live in peace because I've assumed peace. I walk in clarity because I've accepted clarity. My world is kind because I've ceased judging it in my mind. I have become the version of myself who no longer fights with the mirror. I simply change the face I hold in imagination, and the reflection follows. Every night before I sleep, I revisit the scene of my fulfilled desire. I rehearse my victory, not my pain. I fall asleep not with worry, but with gratitude for the dream already realized. And each morning the world has shifted a little more in my favor, not because it loves me more, but because I finally loved myself enough to believe. When people ask me, what if it doesn't work? I smile gently and reply, then you haven't truly accepted it yet, because when you do, when you fully embrace the end, there is no question, there is only knowing. And knowing creates faster than effort ever could. So I say it again, not for your ears, but for your soul. Live as if you already are. Walk as if it is already done. Stop waiting for permission. Stop checking for signs. Let the signs follow you. You are the operant power. No one else is doing it to you. Life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. The script is yours. The role is yours. The stage is set by the mood you carry. And the curtain rises the moment you say, I am. It has always been this way. All change begins within. The outer is only the echo. So choose now, and choose finally. Be the version of yourself who no longer asks, when will it come, but who declares, it is already mine. Feel it, live in it, trust it, and the world will rise to meet you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally remembered who you are. And who you are is enough, always has been, always will be. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter what's in your bank account, or what your family said, or what the news reports. None of that matters. The only thing that ever matters is what you are assuming to be true right now. The only thing with power is the consciousness you carry in this moment. You don't need to fix the past or fear the future. You need only dwell in the feeling that it's already done. That's where the real power is. Right now, in this breath, in this thought. And yes, there will be moments when doubt creeps in. There will be days when the world presents a picture that contradicts what you're believing within. But even in those moments, you hold the power. You don't fight the reflection. You change the face. You don't beg the mirror to smile. You smile first. You go within and you reaffirm. It is done. I am already the person I desire to be. My world is already shifting to reflect this truth. Do not let appearances talk you out of your destiny. The world you see is not fixed. It is fluid, responsive, obedient to your imagination. You are not a passive participant in this life. You are the author. And what you write within, the world must act out. No delay, no debate, no resistance, unless the resistance lives in you. There are no obstacles except the ones you entertain. There are no enemies except the states you won't release. So when fear shows up, you don't fight it, you rise above it. You move into the state of courage, of faith, of divine authority. You remind yourself, I am the only operant power in my world. Nothing can oppose me unless I agree with it. And in that moment, you shift, you elevate, you become the master once again. Every day I choose. I choose not to accept what the outer world says about me. I choose not to believe the limiting stories that others live by. I choose to live from the end, not someday but now. I choose to dress myself in success before anyone applauds. I choose to walk in wealth before the money shows up. I choose to feel love before the relationship appears. Because I know, oh, I know that the world is only echoing back what I've already accepted as true. People think this is pretending. But I tell you, it's the only reality that matters. What you feel to be true in your imagination is more real than what you see with your eyes. The visible world is yesterday's assumption made visible. So if you want a new experience, you must assume a new identity today, not tomorrow, not when things improve. Now, I walk through my days with quiet confidence. I do not explain myself. I do not justify my dreams. I do not shrink to make others comfortable. I do not defer to circumstances. I live from the inside out. I have seen the mansion within me. I have walked its halls in imagination. I have stood on the balcony and breathed the air of fulfilled desire. And so when it appears in the outer world, I am not surprised. I am simply receiving what was always mine. You must learn to be unmoved by delay. You must learn to walk by assumption, not by sight. Delay is not denial, it is preparation. It is the universe reorganizing itself to match the truth you carry. So do not panic when the world doesn't shift instantly. Do not doubt when others can't see what you know. Persist in the state. Occupy the vision. Stay loyal to the unseen, and the seen will bend. I do not ask, how will it happen? I do not calculate the path. I do not worry about timing. I trust the law. I know that the state creates the bridge. I walk the bridge of incidents, not knowing the details, but knowing the end is secure. I live from the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and all things align. Events, people, doors. It all rushes forward to meet me, because I dared to assume it was already so. And the joy I feel, it doesn't wait for the manifestation. It begins now. I feel the warmth of the answered prayer before I see it. I rest in the sweetness of completion before the world gives its evidence. I laugh, I rejoice, I give thanks, because I know this truth. What I have accepted in consciousness is already mine. So I walk into rooms differently. I speak to people differently. I move through life, not as a seeker, but as one who has found. My posture has changed. My voice carries a different frequency. My mind is no longer cluttered with doubt. I have chosen the end, and I abide there, and the world has no choice but to catch up to me. When lack tries to whisper, I laugh. When fear tries to linger, I smile. When the world tries to convince me I am not enough, I stand firm in the knowing that I am. I do not bow to old stories. I do not revisit graves I've already risen from. I do not apologize for believing in the power within me. I remember who I am. I remember the source of all things lives in me. I remember that the power to create worlds is wrapped in my imagination. And from that sacred center I live. I breathe, I create. You see, there is no striving in the state of the end. There is no anxious movement. There is no questioning. There is only being, only stillness, only the calm of knowing that it is already so. And from that stillness, I act. My actions are not desperate, they are aligned. My steps are not rushed, they are rooted. My choices are not reactive, they are inspired. Because I live in the state, and the state carries me. I do not force outcomes, I assume identities. And from those identities, the outcomes flow. I no longer ask, will it work? I ask, who must I be to experience that? And then I become that one in consciousness. I feel what they would feel. I think their thoughts. I walk with their stride. I love as they love. I rest as they rest. And the world bends to that new self. Every time I return to that inner knowing, my world transforms. Every time I abandon worry and return to the end, something shifts. Not because I made it happen, but because I allowed it. Because I stopped resisting. Because I trusted the unseen more than the visible. And now it is my way of life. I do not dabble in imagination. I live there. I do not occasionally affirm. I become the affirmation. I do not watch the clock. I watch my state, because I know my state determines everything. This is the way. This is the truth. You don't beg the world, you bless it. You don't wait for a breakthrough. You assume it has already happened. And because you assume it, the gates swing open. Not one thing in my world changed until I changed within. Not one miracle arrived until I made space for it in my heart. Not one dream was fulfilled until I accepted that I was worthy of it, right now as I am.
And when I did, the heavens opened. Not because I earned it, not because I waited long enough, but because I believed, because I dared to act as if it were already true. And that one decision, the decision to believe before seeing, changed everything.
I am not lucky. I am not chosen above others. I am simply awake to the eternal truth that you are not what the world says you are. You are what you assume yourself to be. You are not a reflection, you are the source. You are not at the mercy of life, you are its master. The kingdom is within you, and from that kingdom all things flow. So now I dwell there. I live in the castle of consciousness. I do not visit occasionally. I reside, and from that sacred dwelling, my world is made new, over and over again. I know who I am, and now, so do you. Every time I close my eyes, I see it again, not as fantasy, not as something I hope to one day experience, but as something real, something inevitable, something done. I walk through the home that already belongs to me. I touch the walls. I feel the smoothness of the surfaces. I hear the sound of my laughter echoing through the rooms. I sit in the garden and let the breeze touch my skin. I live there. I dwell there. And because I dwell there within, I will surely dwell there without. That is the law. I don't care how impossible it looks. I don't care if others say it's unrealistic. I don't seek their approval. I don't need their validation. They speak from a world I no longer belong to. I live by different rules now. I live by inner truth, not outer noise. I see with spiritual eyes, not with eyes of limitation. I walk by the light of assumption, and I have found that the universe bows to the one who knows where they are going. The world bends to the inner decree. Life organizes itself around the self-concept you carry. If you believe yourself to be abundant, healthy, worthy, and loved, then the world reflects that belief in exact proportion. If you believe yourself to be always waiting, always struggling, always trying to become, then that too becomes your living experience. But I chose another way. I chose to become now, to feel it now, to be it now. And everything changed. I remember a time I doubted this. I remember asking, can it really be this simple? And the answer came, it is not only simple, it is law. It is how it has always worked. You were just too distracted by appearances to see it. So I stopped asking how. I stopped demanding proof. I stopped needing confirmation. I made a vow to myself to live in the end, no matter what, until the end became my only reality. And I did. Let the world call it delusion. Let others wait for signs and signals. Let them wrestle with logic and strategy. I have something better. I have vision. I have imagination. I have the divine power to assume a state and let the world conform to it. And so I use it. Not once, not occasionally, always. I live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I plant myself there. I water that feeling every day, and the harvest is inevitable. There are no odds to beat when you walk in certainty. There are no obstacles too large when you have already crossed them in consciousness. I move through life with this quiet joy, not because everything is perfect, but because I have seen the perfection already formed within, and that inner vision sustains me. If someone were to ask me how I became this way, I would tell them I stopped arguing for my limitations. I stopped repeating the old stories. I stopped claiming what I didn't want. I stopped aligning with fear. I began to guard my inner world like sacred ground. I started speaking only what I wanted to see. I started believing that the unseen was more real than what my eyes could touch. And slowly the old world faded. The shadows disappeared. A new reality emerged. One sculpted by love, by faith, by identity, by assumption. You don't get what you want. You get what you are willing to become. You don't manifest by begging. You manifest by embodying. And I learned that the fastest way to change my world was to change the feeling I identified with. I asked myself, how would I feel if it were already done? And then I dared to feel it. Not just once, but habitually, relentlessly, unapologetically. It is done. I feel it is done. I walk as if it's done. And I don't waver. If fear rises, I remind it who I am. If doubt whispers, I silence it with the voice of knowing. I do not entertain contradictions. I return again and again to the state. I reaffirm, I saturate, I persist, not with strain, but with love, with reverence, with the deep joy of a creator watching their masterpiece unfold. The more I live in the state, the less effort I need. The more I trust the law, the less I need to explain myself. My world moves with grace now. Ideas come without striving. Opportunities arrive without force. People show up in perfect timing. Why? Because I am aligned with the version of myself who already lives in the answered prayer. That version does not chase. That version does not panic. That version radiates. That is the version I have chosen to be. The old identity, the one that waited, feared, tried too hard. That identity is gone. I buried it in the silence. I buried it in the stillness of faith. I rose in the new identity, and now I wear it like a second skin. This is my natural state now. I no longer visit this consciousness. I reside in it. When others speak of their limitations, I do not argue. I just listen. But within, I smile, because I know that they too can rise. The moment they are willing to stop worshipping the evidence and start believing in the unseen, all things are possible to the one who lives as if they already are. So I practice this art of assumption in everything. In relationships, I no longer worry about who loves me or how they see me. I assume myself to be loved, chosen, honored, cherished, and that feeling radiates outward. It touches others without me saying a word. They feel it, they reflect it, they respond to the vibration I carry. In my finances, I no longer calculate based on fear. I assume myself to be wealthy, resourced, supported by divine abundance. And that assumption creates opportunities that logic could never predict. That assumption makes doors open that others say are shut. That assumption fills my hands with more than enough. In my health, I no longer consult memories of illness or fear of symptoms. I assume myself to be whole. I assume life flows through me in perfect harmony, and my body listens. Every cell takes direction from the consciousness I hold. My body is not random, it is intelligent, and it responds to the image I carry of myself. You see, I live this way not because I'm trying to get things. I live this way because I've remembered the truth. I've remembered who I am. I am the one who speaks, and it is done. I am the one who imagines, and the form appears. I am the one who no longer waits for the world to change. I change the world by changing me. And every single time I return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, I am reminded again this is the only real work. Not action, not hustle, not effort, but alignment. The inner act of assuming the state, the inward choice to be the version of myself who has already received. That is the real work. And it is beautiful, and it is sacred, and it is always available. Even now, as I speak these words, I feel the truth of them vibrating through me. I feel the peace of already having. I feel the joy of already being. I feel the love of already becoming. And I rest in it. This is what it means to live in the end. This is what it means to walk as the one who knows. No fanfare, no show, just a quiet, radiant certainty that nothing is missing, nothing is broken, and nothing is out of reach. Because I do not reach anymore. I receive, and the receiving never stops. It flows to me because I have aligned with it, not with strain, not with effort, but with stillness. The stillness of knowing, the calm of certainty. I no longer chase after anything. I realize now that what I once chased, I was actually pushing away. In chasing, I was confirming its absence. In longing, I was agreeing that I did not have. But the moment I stopped reaching and began receiving, everything shifted. The moment I said, "It is done," and felt the finality of that claim, heaven moved, and the earth followed. And now I no longer identify with waiting. I no longer live in the tension of almost. I live in the celebration of already. Already blessed. Already elevated. Already in possession of the life I once dreamed about. I feel it before the senses catch up, and because I feel it, they must catch up. That is the law. The inner world impresses itself upon the outer. The unseen becomes seen, not through time, but through assumption. And it was never about deserving. It was never about luck or earning. It was always about alignment. You align by believing. You align by surrendering. You align by embodying. And the moment you do, the old version of you, the one that doubted, the one that feared, the one that questioned falls away. You no longer belong to that world. You've stepped into a higher reality, one where miracles are natural, one where peace is constant, one where the moment you feel it, it forms. And so I've made my inner world my sanctuary. I've made my imagination my most sacred altar. I retreat there not to escape life, but to shape it. I do not close my eyes to forget. I close my eyes to remember who I am, to remember the end, to remember that I already have what I seek. The inner picture is the prophecy. It is not wishful thinking. It is the divine blueprint. And as I return to it again and again, I notice how effortlessly my outer life begins to conform. People ask me now, how did it all come together? And I tell them it didn't come together. It had to happen. It was law. I stopped treating my desires like distant goals and started seeing them as present facts. I lived from the version of myself who already had the result, and that state of being drew everything to me. The phone calls, the open doors, the unexpected checks, the reconciliations, the healings, the opportunities. I didn't chase them. I became the person who lives in their flow, and they had to follow. There is no need to manipulate the outer world when the inner world is in order. When I changed my thoughts, the world around me changed. When I changed my assumptions, people started treating me differently. When I stopped trying to prove my worth and simply assumed my worth, the world stopped withholding. It only reflects what I am holding within. Now I speak to myself differently. I no longer criticize or second guess. I speak from love, because I am love. I speak from power, because I am power. I affirm what is true in spirit, even when the senses lie. I look at myself in the mirror and say, there is nothing missing in you. You are already the one. You are already living it. And even before anything changes around me, something shifts within me, and that shift is everything. I remember that everything has its own appointed hour. And when I live in the end, I am not worried about timing. I don't count the days. I don't measure the distance. I feel the reality of it so deeply that I stop watching for it. I become it. And when I become it, it rushes to me. It meets me in ways I never could have planned. And sometimes it's subtle. A new connection, a nudge in my spirit, a quiet unfolding of events. But I recognize it because I've already lived it in my imagination. When it comes, I say, of course you're here. I've been expecting you. Not with arrogance, but with reverence. With gratitude, with a deep inner calm that says, this is natural. This is who I am now. I've learned to ignore the outer noise. I've learned to remain unmoved by things that used to shake me. I've learned to stay planted in the vision, even when the ground trembles. Because what I know in spirit is more real than any fleeting condition. And the moment I stop reacting, the moment I hold the state no matter what, I rise. And my world rises with me. I no longer ask the world to change. I change, and the world echoes it. I no longer explain my journey to people who cannot see what I see. I just keep walking. I keep assuming. I keep embodying. And slowly, quietly, inevitably, the old world dissolves and the new one stands in its place. I've realized that every time I fall out of the state, it is not failure. It is just a reminder. A gentle invitation to return. So I return. I do not condemn myself. I do not spiral in guilt. I simply come home to the end. I re-enter the feeling of completion. I forgive the lapse and continue in faith. And every time I do, I get stronger. Every time I persist, the gap between the invisible and the visible shrinks. And now I live a life where the invisible feels more familiar than the visible. I consult my inner world before I consult anything else. I don't ask for opinions. I ask for alignment. I ask, am I being the one who has already received? And if the answer is no, I adjust, not the world, but me. I adjust my posture, my feeling, my story, my focus. And from that place, everything flows. I have seen too much to ever go back. I have walked too far in the light to ever believe in darkness again. I know now that reality is not what happens to me. It is what flows from me. Every outer circumstance is a reflection of an inner state, and so I no longer plead with the reflection. I beautify the image within. I polish the inner mirror. I choose love. I choose joy. I choose completion. And because I live in that state, because I am that version of myself now, I don't wait for blessings, I bless. I don't seek miracles, I expect them. I don't hope for change, I become change. And the world, being the faithful servant that it is, reflects back to me exactly what I've chosen. I carry myself now with reverence, not for what I've achieved, but for who I've become. I am no longer the one who needs permission. I am no longer the one who waits for the right time. I am no longer the one who tiptoes around my desires. I am the one who says yes. I am the one who decides. I am the one who is. This state is not fragile. It is eternal. This truth is not delicate. It is indestructible. And every time I speak from this place, mountains move. Every time I think from this place, paths open. Every time I feel from this place, miracles become mundane. This is the life I live now. Not because I forced it, but because I aligned with it. Not because I chased it, but because I became it. And now, I dwell in the house of fulfillment, not as a visitor, but as the rightful owner. I speak with the authority of the one who knows. I move with the ease of the one who already is. So now I rest not in waiting, but in fulfillment. I rest not because there is nothing left to do, but because all that needs to be done is already accomplished in the unseen. I walk in the world, but I live in the end. I interact with the temporary, but I abide in the eternal. And from this sacred place within me, all things flow. I do not force. I do not beg. I do not doubt. I know. I assume. I embody. And I give thanks, not just when it appears, but now, because it already is. There is nothing left to attain, only more of myself to remember. Nothing left to chase, only more of the truth to awaken within me. I have tasted the power of inner conviction, and it has become my way of life. I no longer reach for change. I am the change. I no longer wait for signs. I am the sign. I no longer hope to arrive. I am already there. This is the life I live now, from the end, in fullness, in faith, in the unwavering knowing that it is already done.